Well, welcome back here to the Seam Studio. This time around, let's have a look at airport accident reaction. The way that I'm going to look at this is from the AFSEC point of view. However, it does not really matter where you're on the airport and what you are doing. The airport is not going to stand still the very moment that there's an accident. In fact, it's going to hype up. So it's a good thing that we see what will happen during the time. Not everything that you're going to do, but you need to understand all the things that's going to happen during that time, or that is supposed to happen. A naturally sad sight if there's such an accident. Let's have a look at the purpose of the accident reaction. Well, firstly, you can see that is to save lives. Those people that's been involved in the accident, to save their lives. But then secondly, just as important, to secure lives of people that's still in the air on the ground. All right, whoa. A lot of times people think that the accident reaction has got just to do with the people that's in the accident. Of course, that's our primary responsibility, is to get to those that's in direct and immediate need. But remember, we've still got aircraft airborne, and we've got people on the aprons, and we've got passengers around, and we've still got to look after their safety as well. That's why I'm saying to secure the lives, meaning that we don't want to put extra people's lives in jeopardy just because there was an accident. All right, so we've got the primary purpose there, and I put that on as a part, and then to preserve property. Well, there's private property and public property, or the state property. That's got to be looked after. Now, at this point, before we get into the reaction and who's going to do what on the scene, I think let's just see the accident has happened. Obviously, there is going to be serious alarm that is made, and the accident reaction is going to start off. But nothing can come to a standstill. There's people on final approach, there's people on the aircraft on the taxiway, there's people in the middle of being inspected, and. So nothing actually can come to a grinding halt. So there's this contingency. Things must continue. And we always talk about, what's the contingency plan? Well, what is the contingency plan is while the reaction is on the way, the job must continue. Yeah, but that sounds a little bit disrespectful. No, it's absolutely not disrespectful. Remember, we are doing the full reaction, but we still got to look and not put other people's lives in danger. So it's not a question of the show must go on. You can't use it in that sort of flippant way. It's a serious one. There are aircraft airborne. Must be facilitated, passengers must be secured and processed, the aircraft on the apron, taxiways, and so on. I mean, we don't really want a second accident. We cannot let one accident be the cause of the next accident. That's the last thing we want on our watch. Okay, the security of the entire facility must now be stepped up. Well, yes, of course, because in times of serious stress is when we become vulnerable. If we become vulnerable, then the people that we are there to protect and the order that we've got to keep, that can easily be disturbed. No unauthorized person may get in the way or be allowed to disrupt procedures. And this is where, a lot of people go, yeah, but I'm so-and-so. Well, that's fine. You may be so-and-so, but remember there are rules and regulations because it's an accident, there's still aircraft and still people on the apron, there's still aircraft on the apron. So we have to keep the discipline as it was, and we cannot allow unescorted, unauthorized people inside. Okay, the airport may be shut down, and I promise you this will take much more effort than just a night shift takeover. That's going to be quite tough. Okay, so everybody is rushing around, and I'm not part of the reaction team, so what's my part here? What must I do? Well, the first thing is that you stay at your station. and that you man your station, and that you make sure that you do the job that you're appointed to do, and that you look after the environment. Do not call anyone unless you see the accident happen first. All right, whoa. Everybody, we want to grab the cell phone and we want to be on the social media to be the first. That's not what you do. You cannot contribute, or shouldn't contribute, to panic and chaos. All right? Not at all. All right. And then I say, do not post media information, speculation or photos. Do not speak to any press or a friend regarding the accident. The last thing is that you're not the spokesperson for the company. And a lot of people has been in a lot of trouble because we're so eager. We want to get our 15 seconds of fame. Your 15 seconds of fame is not seated, I promise you, in the public eye. It is to do your job. That's where heroes are made, not on Facebook. Okay, wait for orders, should you be needed, or the next step according to the airport management decision. Right, if you're not available and they've got to say, okay guys, we've got a shutdown, we've got a lockdown, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and you're not available, you're part of the plan. All right, you're one of the cogs in, this very, very, very complicated mechanism, and you must be available. Now, do not interfere with the accident site. Do not allow anyone to go to the accident site. Keep your area secure. Keep your area calm. All right, because that's why people want to put bombs and stuff, as you've seen in the previous one, is just to get attention and to create utter dysfunctionality and disorder. Well, this may be not a planned thing, the accident, but it's pretty much got the same end result. And everybody will rush up and down. The reaction teams, right, now I know that's slightly off, but you also need to know what's happening out there. So the initial reaction team, you'll see always there's the fire. The fire must first be doused before the medical team can get onto the scene, all right? And you'll see that there are certain security people standing around, and they are around there, and they must make sure that nobody interferes. Now, I've got this aircraft fitter here, or I could have said an aeromechanical engineer, AME, somebody technical, because sometimes we need guidance. Let's say it's got an ejection seat. Okay, not the aircraft we were, but there might be an Air Force or a military aircraft landing at your place and it needs an injection seat. You can't go there. It's too dangerous. And maybe there's accumulators, maybe there's batteries that must be put off or something. So somebody from the technical side, please. That's part of the immediate team. All right. First of all, the fire service, what are they to make the aircraft accessible? Because remember now, it's burning and we can't get to it. So it does not help for us to burn our assets and then, in any case, not being able to save anybody. The aircraft maintenance is to make the aircraft safe for extraction of the injured, medical rescue team to provide first aid for the injured, and security to prevent unnecessary people stampeding of vital evidence and prevent onlookers from secondary dangers. Well, the last thing you want is I've got people to look after that is now in a near-death situation, is to be cramped by people that has got absolutely nothing to do with it. So our job is to make sure that the perimeter is definitely secured. But let's say you're not part of the security in the perimeter. Your part on the airfield must still be looked after and still stay secured. All right? And that's, so I'm just telling you what's happening where you probably won't be. A little bit about accident sites and dangers about an accident site is here. First of all, say never approach from downwind direction. Now the reason is, if you're downwind, the wind is blowing from the wreckage over you, and if you look at this kind of smoke there, and here I've got this picture is pathogens or airborne pathogens, and you breathe them in, and you know, if that's the bad stuff, let's say there is pieces of asbestos or pieces of what shall we call it, fiberglass or something like that, and you breathe it in. Remember, that's inside. And if there's any other pathogens, anything that's floating around from the site and you get it in, really, there shouldn't be secondary damage to us just because we do rescuing. Sometimes there's radioactivity, especially, remember now, with military aircraft, there are pieces of the aircraft and maybe of the engine and the dive brakes and whatever that could be radioactive. It's not really in use anymore, but from the older school, you'll still find that. If you smoke at the site, smoke it downwind. All right, wait. Let's get to this one. It's pretty much bad manners to smoke on the field when you're playing golf. It's pretty bad. The doctor does not smoke in the theater. Well, I hope so. Well, I know so. All right, we don't. But if you really have to go and smoke, it must be downwind. The reason for that is, if you're on the upwind side and you set anything alight, you can destroy whatever else is left there. We do not want secondary fires. We don't even want to think about it. Remember, there's a crash. There's fuel all over the place. There's oils all over the place. And the temperature could be so that all it needs is just a little spark. So don't think, you know, that it's overdone. It's not. Ensure all potential explosives are neutralized. Many parts of the aircraft even may have little explosive charges to set off certain emergency in the doors, or set off in the fire extinguisher or whatever. So don't think they aren't. I'm not talking about big explosive things. It could be small things. All right. Hydraulic lines and internal pressures. I can tell you that the hydraulic lines it's bad, because those things are pumped up to such a high pressure that a small break in it can spew the stuff out, and it can literally cut your limbs off. And if you're not scared now, the idea is not to get you scared, but the idea is for you to get respect, that only those that know they should be on the site. Okay, remaining fuel in the tanks and the pipes, broken glass and the fibers that I was talking about that you can also breathe in, and then bloodborne pathogens. So they say, if you're working with the people, remember gloves, mask, eye protection, and all that kind of stuff. Pretty much, or pretty important. Okay, now we're moving a little bit of way, because remember the first one was, no, we get to the accident site, they put the fire out, the aircraft is made safe, paramedics go in, they save those, and we will remove that, and then afterwards, obviously, the bodies will be removed. And don't think bad of it, but the bodies will have no preference. It will be those that need medical attention. All right. And then after that, we'll get the bodies out and the area will be cleared. But now there must be a conservation of the evidence. Now, the evidence is not there to put somebody in jail. I know that's what everybody thinks. As an accident investigator, what our job is to ensure that we understand why things happen so that we can avoid it in future. We don't want that same accident again. And you've listened to enough of this stuff to understand that if we really can get to the heart of it and we can fix the heart of the problem, then we've got a better chance of survival. And remember, there's not just one problem, there might be many. Okay, all papers lying on the ground are flying around. Papers and what was on it, we know that all aircraft books, everything, all aircraft checklists, whether it's filled in or not. Eyewitnesses. Yeah, we need the people to say, hey, what did you see? And this is amazing. Remember, it's not always ideal and everybody is watching. Look, it's the first prize if you can get a video from before the accident and during the accident sequence. After that, videos aren't really useful anymore, and a lot of photos and close-up photos that's just for your sort of mindset. But if you know about somebody that has got this on film, that is so important, because that can lead the investigation team very quickly to find out. Remember, at this stage now, we have now looked at the injured, we removed the bodies, we are now preserving everything else. If the fire truck goes in there and they destroy some of the evidence, well, we don't want them to destroy it, but we also don't want them to take the attention away from, getting the environment accessible so that we can get to the injured. Okay, make notes on the present weather conditions, the wind strength, direction that it blows, and temperature, dust cloud, in other words, all that. And then I'm just talking about, now remember, this might not be for you, but this is what's happening in the background. Should it be that you're in an environment where you are in that area, remember now, if there's any fatality, then that crew member, the belongings of that crew member, the locker, person effects, all of that must be identified, and they will have a look at the medical history, and there will be later on a pathology report coming out. But those are all in the future. What is important here is just please remember that when you isolate somebody's office or locker or whatever, you don't go in there. You never go in alone. You will always, when it needs to be inspected to see what's inside there, and there's various reasons why it might be, there must always be an officer of the law with, and there must be more than one person. Now you can take videos and photographs and really make sure that afterwards nobody can come back and say, but you disturbed stuff that you shouldn't, or you took stuff that you shouldn't, anything like that. We don't want that. All right, crash site rules. The first thing is to nominate a crash site controller, and the first guy that's on there, that's the fire boss, and they're normally in charge until your flight safety officer comes there. They will use security to look around that. Now, your police services, they will be interested in the accident because of bodies and injury. Because if there are bodies, then they've got to open up a docket, because it's a death, and the death must be closed. All right, and so it is a process, and they must be able to do their process. Once they're done with their processes on the bodies, they will retreat. Then they won't. But remember, you cannot be in the way of the police to do their job. But the police also know that they cannot be in the way when the rescue is going there. Everybody is trained for that. Okay, the entrance could be, controlled by your police contingency or your security. Brief all occupants of the crash site on what they should and should not do. Call the aircraft accident investigator flight center if any part of the wreckage is found. Just the first part that came off the wreckage is normally very important. If it came off in the air and is somewhere else and you could find that, the whole idea is to get all the evidence together, because only then we can build the picture. Once we can build the picture, we can go step by step back. And I've looked at this so many times, and being involved in that, it just amazes me when you get to a place and you've got a hole in the ground. There's nothing. Yet, at the end of the day, the reason for that accident, most of the times, 80% of the time, they know. We can get to the point we say, this is, what precipitated or what started the sequence that led to this negative result. All right, beware of disturbing evidence, only disturb wreckage to remove injured, do not go tin kicking. All right, no people, you know, some people walk with their hands in their pockets and they're scared to touch, and then they start kicking it with their feet and stuff like that. You know, it doesn't look good. You have your gloves, you're fit to do things, and you are professional at work. All right, and the people that do the response, they've got a response kit as well. Great. So if you haven't got the response kit, you're obviously not part of the response, okay? Want people not to pick up objects. Try and find the first piece that came off the aircraft and maintain a fire crew. You don't want secondary fires. Aircrew statements. Now, here you can see I've got a picture of the aircrew, and a lot of times we tend to think of the aircrew only as the pilots, but it's not just the pilots. Remember, it's the pilots in the front, but then you've got your flight attendants and the pursers and everybody in, and there are many spaces and places on the aircraft where you've got people who's working on the aircraft, and they are all considered crew. And you actually want statements from all of them. It might be different what happened in the cockpit and what they can see, but we always also need to know during events what happened there in the back. Okay, remember that the aircrew statements, it's not a sworn statement, it's a short description, duty, possible conflicting information, and remember to get the contact details, because that is the important, we know. So we've got the rosters, we know who is, and that's fine. But if there's an accident and you don't know who's been on roster, if it's a private aircraft that we don't know who's on board, then it can become a little bit of a problem. Okay. The fact is that right after the accident, the pilot's going to say a lot of stuff. And it's going to be 90% adrenaline and probably 10% brains at that stage of the game. But we need to have a feeling in the beginning what went, and then we let them go. All right? It's just a statement. They don't have to swear in it or anything. It will later on get to the point, so okay, now we need to ask you official questions and we need official answers. All right. So in the beginning, it's to find out if we can get an idea. If we really have got an indication what happened, we can very quickly see if that is something that contaminated the whole fleet. Sorry, is it something on the airfield that needs to be corrected, and so on. All right, so this is not a witch hunt. Eyewitness? Yeah, all competent eyewitness, I said. I've had cases where I've had many eyewitnesses, but half of them had too much to drink. So they made the story up as they go. Okay, the location at the time of the accident, weather at the time, aircraft movement, how the aircraft impacted, any other information, full names, all that. Non-aviation witness should be allowed to demonstrate the aircraft movement with an aircraft model. We haven't always got an aircraft model with us, and I'm not, well, although I've got, let me just create something else, you know, so, okay, and this is the aircraft, and, you know, what did it do? So I'll sort of try and use the imagination at the beginning. Later on, we can actually go back to the eyewitnesses. I remember the eyewitnesses also been, it's a bit of a trauma to see that as well. So the eyewitness might have seen wonderful things before, during, and after the accident. And that's why we've got the different, and we go through the whole process so that at the end of the day, we've gotten a better idea. Okay, because people, you know, sometimes it's just emotionally a little bit bad. A lot of other witnesses, I've looked here, and I just want to pin it out here. Here we've got the ground crew, we've got our apron guys, we've got the cockpit crew, we've got the operations crew in the operational. So here I'm looking at authorizing officer, briefing officer, flight, air traffic controller, radar controller, chief pilot or training pilot, occupants of the aircraft, pilot on the previous flight. Later on, the maintenance engineer. We're going to go back to the servicing of the aircraft, the aircraft mechanical engineer, and we might get to the people's personal physicians, and then family and friends at the end of the day. And this is where I just need to say, all the witnesses, all the information is eventually going to be very important, how small it might even be. So you also a worker on the airport, and you hear things and you see things and stuff like that. And we're not talking about tattletaling here and dropping people in the problem. That is not what it's all about. But you know, sometimes if there's a little smoke, there could be a fire. And if we know, and you have seen accident where we needed to know a little bit more about the person, their backgrounds, and what they are doing. Private property. All right, I've just got private property, but you know, the same goes for the public stuff or what the government is looking after. Remember that there must be a legal representation with when one surveys what's happening. There must be many photographs. Determine the total damage, check water dams, livestock. Remember, sometimes it's on a farm, and then, you know, animals died in the process, crops could fail, and so on. If fences are broken, they obviously must be fixed up as soon as possible. Wow. Okay, so let's just go a little bit back and say that I'm working somewhere else. There's an accident, I do not leave my post. I'm now hyper alert, and I'm ensuring that there's no chaos or stampeding or anything happening in my section. I beef up the security, I become wide awake, and I am standing by to give support as it is needed. But I do not leave my post. Yeah, but I saw the accident, and I saw that they were a little bit slow, and so I wanted to go and help. No, the people that is now on the reaction, they have been trained, and the reason they're moving at a certain pace is because that is dictated on how to approach such a dangerous environment. Because at the end of the day, everybody can be heroes and dead. We are not interested in dead heroes. We are interested in people that will do their job and stick to what they do the best, what they've been trained for, and follow the SOP, the standard operating procedure. Until next time.